Being Friday the 13th, while waiting for my tattoo, I was reminded of a situation a few years ago with my friend Liz, who's my primary artist, and an especially Karen type lady and her Kyle-esque boyfriend, double K for both, who came in to get cheap tattoos. I watched this whole thing go down, but wasn't involved per se. So Liz was doing a quick custom job on me and my buddy Chris. Yes, we got matching tattoos, Star Wars yin/yang for those wondering. I went second, so Liz and I could catch up. Double K bypassed the massive line out the door and down the stairs and walked straight up to the artist area to try to skip the line. This was shut down pretty quick and they were told there's a huge wait in front of them and they'll have to go to the back of the line. Well, Double K didn't like this one bit and started to throw a fit. Like legit tried to pull me out of the chair because he's getting what he wants and I was here first. She wasn't. I was there at 8 AM to help Liz load in Odds and Donuts, and the 10 people in line before me knew this too. Well, one of the artists just finished and said, "I'll take you too." We were all kind of flabbergasted by this, but Liz got this big poop eating grin on her face, so I knew something was up. I figured the dude would do a terrible job, go too deep, use the wrong needle, something to just royally F up their day, but he did none of this. He pulled his flash sheet and said pick one. Karen picked something, and he asks where she wants it. Back of her ankle, so dude gets to work free-handing it, while Double K keep looking at the line, like they won something. Well, they did win something, the smallest tattoo I've ever seen. This thing was no bigger than a dime. From 10 feet away all I could see was a little black spot on her leg that looked more like a mole than a tattoo. Double K lost it, screaming about him assaulting her and forcing her to get a tattoo and they're gonna call the cops and all that. Then they tried to skip out without paying. They were rather impolitely informed that theft of service is a felony and that cops are only 10 minutes away. They tried to pay up the $13, but that's where the guy's brilliance really shone through. His sheet said custom at the top. All custom tattoos were $31. Not only did this lady have a very tiny and very intricately detailed tattoo, she only had a $50 on her, and they had a big sign at the register that said simply no change. Double K ended up paying the shop minimum anyway, but she got her tattoo ahead of the line. This story happened a few years ago. I used to work for a well-known alarm company doing installs when we got a new guy in. He seemed fresh off the boat with terrible English and me being fluent in Russian. He got tagged with me. Cast. Me. Ivan, new guy. Karen, homie Arwana. Background. I've been working with Ivan for a few weeks before the malicious compliance. We spoke Russian between each other, but changed to English whenever the customer was around to maintain professionalism. Most customers were okay with this, as you could tell Ivan was struggling with the language and I would do all the talking to the customer until we got to Karen. That day, it started out just like any other. We get to the house, a lady greets us at the door. Didn't know at the time this was Karen as there were no signs. Do a walk around and everything seems fine. Ivan has not spoken a single word yet. We get to work in the basement and I start talking to Ivan like usual. Not even 5 minutes later, Karen comes running down the stairs demanding that we stop talking in whatever, and this is an English talking household and she does not want her kids to hear it. We apologize and continue working. Ivan is mostly staying quiet until he tries to ask for a tool he doesn't know the name for in English and says the name in Russian. Karen runs out of the laundry room and starts berating Ivan for breaking her rules. Ivan is stumped, but mumbles an apology and Karen huffs away in triumph. A couple hours later, while running wire, Ivan was drilling through the studs and came in contact with a household electrical wire. A flash and pop and Ivan starts cussing in Russian. Immediately, the laundry door bangs open and Karen is standing there, and without missing a beat Ivan turns to her and switches to English, probably to explain what he is saying. I was amazed by his vocabulary there, and it seemed like he was swearing for a solid minute before starting to run out of choice. Karen turned red and started yelling at us to get out, and I knew there was no saving this dumpster fire, so we just packed up and left. On the road back to the office I found out Ivan is a fan of English crime and gangster movies, where he learned his share of profanity. Getting back to the office, we got written up, but the boss still had a chuckle. Ivan stayed for a few more months, before leaving the company, and I never found out if he realized how malicious his compliance was. As for the customer, I have no idea what ended up happening to her, as I never went back. I'm the warranty head for a retailer dealing in large machinery. The vendor sells to us, we sell to the customer, then I deal with any warranty claims on behalf of the customer. We also sell attachments for the large machinery, like grapples and hammers, which have their own warranty terms. We purchased a set of grapples in 2017 and kept them in stock until finally installing them onto a machine that we sold last month. Immediately they started having issues. No problem, we went out and replaced a $1,700 part that had failed. I submitted the claim to the grapple company. Unfortunately, the grapple company just got bought out by a different vendor who is playing hardball, and my claim is denied. Technically, the grapple company only warranties their parts for 1 year from the ship date, not the install date. We keep a large stock count of their grapples as part of an unwritten agreement between our companies. The former owner was a personal friend of my company's owner. Maintaining our own stock makes inventory easier for both of us, rather than having to place a rush order for each machine we sell. We make up a large portion of their yearly sales. I resubmit the claim requesting goodwill compensation, and was denied again. I resubmitted a third time detailing the understanding we had with the previous owners. The new warranty guy on their side sent me the response. Grapple company understands the situation, but we aren't able to help. Our warranty guidelines are clear that no warranty will be considered if the terms have expired outside of extenuating circumstances, and we require all retailers to follow those terms to the letter. If there are extenuating circumstances to this claim, please advise. Fine. $1,700 is not a truly significant amount of money, but this lack of warranty issue does promise to become much bigger as time passes and could make it non-profitable to carry their brand. I make a recommendation to the head of sales, and he gives me authorization to throw my weight around. I email him back saying, "We appreciate you must follow warranty guidelines as written. We consider the extenuating circumstances to be the continued relationship between our two companies. If you disagree, we must also begin following our guidelines to the letter. Per our terms from /X document, we will be returning all items approaching the year mark for full credit. We will not be continuing to keep advanced stock, as Grapple Company has had significant issues in the past handling JIT inventory requests. We will also be looking elsewhere for a supplier. Please advise your staff to expect the first return shipment by the end of the week. Thank you for your time." Surprise surprise, the vendor's new president came rushing down to visit us personally and unruffle feathers. My head of sales and I sat down and hashed out a written agreement for new warranty terms to reflect our stocking understanding and continuing good relationship. I got my measly $1,700 credit and, more importantly, what amounts to a carte blanche on all future claims. Their warranty adjuster has been instructed to handle us with kid gloves. Welcome back to Miss Victoria's Stories of Sit On It and Twist. Here in this world, MC is not only a means to an end, but can often result in petty revenge. This story takes place in my current job. So, sit back, snuggle up and prepare for another laugh at the idiots of the world. As I have mentioned in my previous stories, I'm the assistant manager in one store of a local chain of bodega/gas stations. The only thing missing that will give you the instant bodega feel would be selling losers for 25 cents, quarter for a square. One of my co-workers is a very young kid who just graduated high school this summer. Is where this story begins. I took up this job back in May of this year, 2019, and have been doing some combination of the strangest shifts that could have only been put together by M. Night Shyamalan, SP. So, some days I'm opening the store. When I'm on my day shifts, I attempt to make the night shift employees' lives easier by doing a considerable amount of their shift work before I leave for the day. For example, I sweep, mop, change coffee, vacuum the rugs, take out trash, clean the parking lot, and stocking tobacco products. We're in a dry county, so no alcohol here. I have done my job like this since arriving here, and I do it for everyone. I have never had a complaint until this week. The younger co-worker, who I'm going to call Peter, since he is as white bread as it gets, a royal pain in the ass, and because it's not only an acronym, but also a real word as well. Peter decided he was going to throw a holy hell fit about how I do things, and went to the manager about me. His complaints were, I don't do enough work, I don't properly stock anything, and I take too many smoke breaks. Our shifts literally cross over for maybe an hour. He went off on my manager in the most Karen-esque manner believable. Now, me being, well me, means I don't take shit from anyone. But, big but, my manager is my best friend, so I do my best not to create more issues for her. So, it's malicious complaints time. See, if I'm not doing enough work, but I'm doing all his busy work, I suppose it's time for me to focus on tasks that need done, so the manager can go home at a decent hour. It's been a week and I have done none of his work, but the cooler and paperwork are on point. The best revenge came when, just before I had to leave, and I looked at him to say, Peter, the coffee is out of date and burning, you need to change it. That boy hasn't had to do coffee before this week, because I'm always doing it for him. The crestfallen look made it completely worth throwing off my schedule. Of course he still complains about me, but my work is beyond reproach and my customers love me. I won in the end. I work in a warehouse order picking. I recently had 2 weeks off as I had pulled a muscle in my considering the heavy lifting involved. My GP advised me to take 2 weeks off. I phoned the company absences line 12 times over the 14 days when in all honesty we are only supposed to update for the first 5. I return to work, have a return to work meeting, where they go through why you're off, if you're fit to return and ask, did you make contact? Everything was fine, note was given in. I showed my call logs of when I contacted. Easy. So the next day my new line manager pulls me in for an investigation over conduct, saying I'd failed to follow the absence process. I go through it all, show the call logs ECT, and I'm thinking it's fine. Later on I get given a letter telling me it's getting escalated to a disciplinary meeting the next day with the same line manager. Obviously, I was confused. I go into the meeting knowing that the manager that did the investigation can't hold the disciplinary as its classes as prejudged, which is failing to follow procedure. He didn't provide me with the notes from the investigation. He didn't give me 24 hours notice, and again I went above and beyond. So after the meeting started with him and another manager in taking notes, I brought this to his attention and he says he didn't know. The other manager says I'm right and is smirking. So it gets thrown out. The next day I get pulled in again saying that now they're classing that as further investigation, and I'm also being investigated for finishing just over a minute before I was supposed to. Every day in the 5 years I've worked here I've turned up early to get my equipment ready, started the second it hits the time to start, and overachieved substantial on my rate. So malicious compliance kicks in. I've now been following every line and letter of procedure, only getting my equipment ready after the shift has started, which means all the trucks from my department have gone, and I have to wander around looking for a truck. All health and safety is being followed. Timekeeping is accurate to the second, and I'm doing everything as is originally shown when training, and I'm 10% under the targeted rate almost every day. The line manager pulled me up about my underperformance and I asked if he wanted to send the trainer with me to see how I could improve. Trainer follows me for the shift, laughs to me and the manager and says I'm doing everything perfectly to procedure. I'm currently waiting on my disciplinary over not following procedure and still haven't been given paperwork and evidence to defend myself when it eventually happens, and I'm still following every letter of procedure. Update: union rep came in with me to my second disciplinary. Didn't really need it as the new manager investigating laughed it off and told me there would be no further action and apologized for my line manager. Union have also advised me to put a grievance in against him for not following procedure. Not sure if malicious, but a story I wanted to share. This compliance was experienced from the other side of the fence. I'm a manager at a restaurant and observed a worker not following procedure with the tortilla press. We have a timer on the machine for 10 seconds and it wasn't being used. Thinking of having a bit of fun and getting a laugh out of the worker, I covered the timer with my hand and asked them to count for 10 seconds for me on cue with me starting the timer. Not only did they do as asked with no question, They did so quite loudly for the whole team to hear, and as they reached 10, beep, beep, beep. I have never bothered that worker about the timer ever since. If you enjoyed the stories, slap the like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.